they've had zero school shooting incidents for, a decade plus. Zero. And we've had what? How many again?
Outside picking up trash because they have nothing else to do.
Old folks bruise easily.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Doom Scroll Club, the only show where America's weekly breakdown gets the laugh track it deserves. Today we're diving into the Minnesota shooting, which right-wing Twitter immediately decided was a gender identity referendum instead of, a tragedy. Meanwhile, Trump is out here treating D.C. like it's his personal SimCity expansion pack, deploying the National Guard to guard monuments from tourists, critics, the vibe, and in case you missed it, our commander-in-chief briefly disappeared, which launched a wave of death rumors so wild that his eventual reappearance felt less like a press conference and more like Weekend at Bernie's, MAGA edition. And Gavin Newsom, he's spending his time trolling the Trump administration online with memes and merch drops because apparently the resistance is now just one giant shitpost. So grab your emotional support beverage because the headlines aren't getting lighter, just pettier, and doom scrolling is funner with friends. Cody, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. Just been, doom scrolling probably a little too much this week, but I guess that's why we're doing this podcast. So at least we could talk about it and share our feelings. But how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I went on vacation, had a nice time, and then came back to, all this crazy shit that was happening. So it was immediate back into reality, unfortunately.
Yeah. So where'd you go for vacation?
I spent the weekend with my family in San Diego, with my wife's family. We went to Legoland, did some time at the beach, and just, quality family time. So it was pretty nice.
That sounds like a great little escape from
Yeah.
the current events. So yeah, sorry you had to come back to this, but
Right?
well, hopefully sometime in the future, we won't always have to come back to this, but I feel like it's going to be quite some time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you want to start with our first topic with the shooting situation?
Yeah, let's go for it. I feel like it's probably the biggest news topic we have right now.
Yeah, for sure. So as you know, in the US, we have a gun problem. We, as the Republicans would like to say, we don't have a gun problem. We have a mental health problem. And then I'd like to be like, well, guess what, motherfuckers? Where there's people, there will be mental health problems. Unless you,
Yep.
plan on eliminating people altogether, which you could maybe do with guns, it's not going to change. So therefore, what can we change to prevent this from fucking happening again? So yeah, there was, just to break it down, a recap, Minnesota shooting by someone named Robin Westman. And the biggest thing with this one is that, come to find out, at some point they legally changed their name to Robin from, I think it was Robert, because at one point they identified as trans or whatever. And that was kind of the thing that just set everyone off of just this one piece of information. And it was such a small piece. And he had I don't, they, they had a manifesto. And it was mostly just about their fascination with hurting children. There wasn't anything mentioned about being trans or any sort of trans identity or whatever. I know they're still, uncovering details, but essentially, this person went into a Catholic school, and I think they used to go there. Their mom works there, uh, and shot up during chapel. Luckily, I think they prevented, more damage from happening because they like locked the back doors or something. But there were two children that were shot and killed, and I think it was like a total of 20 that were injured. So still, really scary, very devastating. And it sucks to think that here in the US, you just never know when you're going to be in a situation, or you just don't know if your kids are going to come home, because school shootings are something that happen regularly. And uh, instead of doing something about it, and it always becomes a political talking point, it always comes this, you know, back and forth fight, left, right, and nothing ever happens ever. We don't do anything about certain restrictions with guns or etc. We just kind of keep on doing the same thing we do every time. We fight when there's a school shooting, we point fingers and we just let it happen. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I believe he didn't go. Sorry, I don't know what they identify as now, so I don't. I mean, not that I guess it matters, but I
Yeah.
believe they didn't go inside the school. They shot from outside. They shot through the windows, or like but yeah, I mean, this is obviously a tragedy. I feel like anytime there's a school shooting, anytime there's a mass shooting at all, it's a tragedy. And it's sad that it's being turned into now a witch hunt against trans people. We're seeing posts from politicians that are, talking about how, they think that violence is now linked to people going under hormone therapy. I mean, out of all the mass shootings, especially school shootings we've had, just the last 25 years, it's been two that have, identified as trans, right?
It
At least that
depends
I
who you
know.
ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it depends who you ask and I can see how many school shooters have there been that identified as trans? And, there's been things floating around of there being like at least 7 or something, but I think uh it says likely like 2 to 4 school shooters identified as trans since 2000. So out of, and it's like, how many school shootings have there been since 1990? Yeah, so I'm going to try to find out how many school shootings there's been since 1990. I'm pretty sure most of those are just like cis white dudes. So since 1990, the K-12 school shooting database, it's shitty that we have a database for school shootings. So there's been 837 school shootings since 1990, resulting in 1,135 injuries and 538 fatalities. So the Washington Post data set since 1999, post Columbine, reports 118 active shooter incidents K through 12 schools, but extending back to 1990 with CHDS data, the total climbs. So CHDS notes 389 incidents from 1990 to 2024. This includes non-active shooter events, so maybe close calls or I don't know. So around the 400 and 500 incidents since 1990, factoring in the overlap and broader definitions, the spike since 2015. So no official data set categorizes shooters by gender identity, but let's see here. So of the 400 to 500 school shootings since 1990, likely 390 to 490 involve cisgender shooters, assuming 2 to 4 trans cases per prior response, and a tiny fraction of unclear or non-binary identities. This is a rough extrapolation, as most shooters' cis status is inferred from lack of trans identification. So just to think, like we have had literally, what was it, 538 fatalities due to school shootings alone. And we're still stuck on it's not a gun problem. It's not a gun problem. Of
Well,
course.
and it's always been, at least from my memory, every time we've had a shooting problem, it's been Democrats saying that there is, not enough restrictions on guns. There needs to be more gun laws, and Republicans being like, you're trying to take away our constitutional right. They're trying to do this. They're trying to do that. And there's never been you know, we need to look at white cis men, or we need to look at, these type of people until right now. And all of a sudden we need to look at trans people. And
Yeah.
the fact that trans people are less than 1% of that statistic of school shooters is, you know, and the fact that they're going to blow it up to try and use that for their agenda is scary, because we are seeing more rhetoric of, we're seeing posts from people now saying that all trans people need to be rounded up and detained and studied, like it's scary, I mean, I can't speak for every single trans person. I don't think anyone can, but I've never had any, thoughts of violence towards anyone, like I hear people all the time talking about how they wish, Trump was dead. And like, I don't wish him dead. I don't like the guy, and I don't want him in office. But like, I wouldn't like. That's just not the way I think. I don't wish harm on anyone. And I know the trans people I do know, they don't wish harm on people either. So I don't know why. I mean, I do know why. It's just another reason to try and get more people focused on our people on our community. But it's the implications are terrifying. You look at what happened with the Japanese in World War II and internment camps, and that was all kind of spun around the fear that all Japanese Americans were part of whatever. And
Yeah.
it happens, and it has happened. So we're seeing immigrants being pulled off the streets pretty much every day now, and they've lost, they don't get any due process. So yeah, we're just living in a time where it's really scary, and it's definitely getting to that point where like I want to get out of here, but
Yeah.
still kind of stuck. So I don't know. What are you thinking?
Yeah, and it's strange, by their logic, if we're to look at just one of the school shooters and then blame it on a whole group of people, then yeah, we would be looking at straight white cis men. But, when that happens, they still pull the mental health into things because they don't want it to be a gun situation. But the thing is, so for some more facts, if you look at the UK, very hard to get a gun there. They've had zero school shooting incidents for, a decade plus. Zero. And we've had what? How many again?
It was like
Like,
800.
yeah, 837. So, holy fucking shit. Uh, guess why they haven't had any school shootings? It's not because they don't have trans people in the UK. Obviously, they have trans people in the UK. It's because it's so much harder to gain access to guns in general. Yeah, sure. No country's perfect. They have stabbings and, violence in that way. But you cannot do as much damage with a knife as you can with an assault rifle or with any
Yeah.
gun. Still, we refuse to actually look at the facts and the evidence. And for the Republicans to be this party of like, oh, the facts don't care about your feelings. I'm like, you've gone full feelings, bro. Yeah, like you are in your feels for the gun situation. You are looking at trans people because you just want anything. You want to blame it on anything else besides, our restrictions on guns. And then of course they're like, okay, let's watch the left defend the Second Amendment by saying that we're going to restrict guns, prevent trans people from buying guns. Then they'll start fighting for the Second Amendment. I'm like, you guys are fucking assholes. It's like, honestly, I feel like a lot of trans people do not have guns, but even if they want one, they deserve equal rights. It's either because being trans in itself is not does not mean you're not mentally capable to be a responsible gun owner.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of making it sound like if you're trans, there's no way that you can be a responsible gun owner. And it is interesting, though. I have not seen Blair White, where, I mean, I was looking things for Buck. It just kind of looks like Buck still is following with the right wing kind of situation. Blair put something out about not about the shooter being trans. I know she does own guns, and I think she was silent through most of the week, and I think maybe she was even afraid of people attacking her. And I mean, that's what you get. Like, you're not a pick me. You don't get acceptance because you are a Republican or whatever. People don't like trans people, and they're going to treat you the same at the end of the day. They will
Yeah. I
100% throw
mean,
you under the bus.
she might get away with the first round, the first round where everyone, but it's going to fall back on everyone, no matter what your beliefs are.
Yeah. So she posted something related to a conspiracy theory about it was kind of interesting. I'm gonna bring it up so I don't fucking just butcher what I'm trying to say here. Because my brain's not working very well today. Let's see. So let's check out. So she retweeted um so it says, so I believe I found an interesting connection that nobody has caught onto yet. The sigil symbol that is on one of the magazines in Robin Westman's Manifesto YouTube video is also the one that was used heavily by Highland Park mass shooter Robert Crimo 3. So there's like a symbol that is connected, and they're trying to dig into what that could potentially mean. And so it says the sigil symbol seems to be slightly tilted version of the sigil called the Cross of Endlessness that is used in I don't know these apotropaic magic. Interesting because Cremo wrote an EP called Brainwashed EP under his stage name Awake the Rapper. Cremo claimed to be an MK Ultra victim, so it kind of goes into the MK Ultra
Mm-hmm.
conspiracy. And I think they're trying to make it like, oh, the government is still using mind control tactics to
Mm-hmm.
like basically make these people go crazy and do shit like this. But obviously, that's a massive conspiracy theory. But from what I read in the manifesto that was put out, it was just like they were obsessed with violence and hurting children for a very, very long time. And they were obsessed with school shooters, talking about it constantly, about their idea of wanting to do it, but then maybe not doing it because they didn't want to bring shame on their family, but then ended up doing it. So I don't know. But to tie it to like instantly have all these conservatives talking about how trans people need to be rounded up and put in institutions because we're just mentally ill and we're a danger to society, or we need to be, classified as a terrorist organization. It makes it especially scary when he's sending the National Guard to cities and taking people off the streets. And what if it's like, oh, yeah, let's classify trans people as mentally ill or as a terrorist organization.
Mm-hmm.
So they have like legal ability to actually grab trans people off the street. I mean, it would be hard to recognize. It's not obvious for everybody. But yeah, it's a little concerning. It's one of those things where it's like, oh, yeah, that's not going to happen. That's some pretty crazy imagination going on. It's just like, I mean, for them to go to, oh, yeah, this trans trans shooter is the cause for all violence, or they're all trans people are violent. Like that's using a pretty big imagination as well. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also you kind of hit a point there of while this person did go through a name change and at one point identified as trans, there is now more evidence coming out that they had detransitioned or were detransitioning and they didn't identify as trans anymore.
right. And I
I
don't
don't know
even
if that's,
think they didn't even go through any medical transition.
yeah,
There was no hormones, there was no nothing. And that
they
makes it
just grew
even
their hair
more,
out.
yeah, it makes it more ridiculous that they're literally saying that the hormones that trans people are taking to transition are what's causing this violence and it's screwing
Mm-hmm.
with people's heads. It's like, uh, by that logic, HRT is not just reserved for trans people. It is given to men. Women need it. And so it's like, why would it just cause violence for us? And when the fuck, since when has estrogen caused violence except for like when it plummets for, when people are about to PMS. So, it's fucking weird for them to make
But
all these
also, I mean,
claims.
yeah, and people have been on HRT for decades. Like this isn't something that is just recent and we're just finding out the side effects to it. So it's just another, we're going to feed this to the population and hope people are stupid enough to just run with it and not look into it and just agree with it. Yeah, it's sad, and I mean, as detrimental as it is to our community and scary, we also have to, acknowledge the fact that kids lost their lives. There are kids who survived that are probably going to have PTSD for the rest of their lives, families who did by this. So it's horrendous all the way around. I wish our government was more concerned about its citizens and everyone's safety than it is about corporations and the money that they get provided. Unfortunately, that's not the country we live in. So
Yeah.
as you said, this is like 830 something shooting and since 1990, and it's not going to be the last. Hopefully it's the last from quote unquote trans person, but we know that we're not until there's a lot more safety blockades put up, when it comes, like, no one needs an assault rifle. I can understand someone having a handgun, for safety, or, people go hunting, a shotgun or a regular rifle. No one needs an assault rifle. We're not in a war zone. There's just no need for it. It's just another thing for people to buy and feel better about themselves, or I don't know, but it's absolutely stupid. And yeah.
Yeah. I know the argument is always like, oh, but we are allowed to protect ourselves. We have the right to protect ourselves, especially in the case of what if we need to fight against the government? And it's like, well, I get that because, I mean, look what's fucking happening. But all the people who are saying these things, it's like, y'all are for more government control, apparently. You're the ones
Hmm.
that are here for the National Guard. You're here for Trump taking over cities. And you're also the ones who, thought it was so awful, during COVID. And not to mention those lockdowns and shit happened under Trump, by the way. But I remember when Biden first got elected, they started talking about how, oh, there's going to be another pandemic. You just watch. And then he's going to use that to deploy the National Guard and take over and just create, have more control. Like, absolutely none of that happened. Like, were you projecting? Because that's the fucking shit that is happening right now. Like, they thought Biden was going to declare martial law. And then it's like literally none of that happened. So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you, it's also hard too because it's like it also misses the opportunity to recognize the victims, the actual victims. And now we're just talking about the hate of trans people and fighting about gun control. And it just, we've become so disconnected and, you know, just numb to it that it's like, it just seems like it's nothing to us. And that's the shittiest part. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely feeling like I want to get the fuck out of here. People don't care about life. And it's just crazy making.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like, especially with the rhetoric that's now happening about rounding up trans people. I know, there's a lot of people who are like, well, they don't know who you are. Like, yeah, they do. Like, we're definitely, like, we're in the system. If you've changed your name, if you've, updated your gender marker, if you've gotten, I mean, they're already breaking HIPAA laws with other hospitals. So, like, it's out there. If you've ever written in social media that you're trans, it's traced back to you. So it's not a secret. It's might be a little bit harder for some people to be found, but it's definitely not a secret. But yeah, and we're looking at a situation where if we can get out, if we are able to get out and go somewhere safe, are we going to be allowed out, or are we just going to be grabbed at the border or the airport? So it's, I mean, again, that's, worst case scenario, but it's something that you have to realize is a possibility with the way things are going right now.
Yeah. And then, people will be like, well, how are they going to know if you're trans at the border? It's like, well, because they aren't putting the right gender marker on passports. If there's a mismatch, it's pretty easy to see. And that's why I'm just getting a British passport and that's what I'm fucking using because I can actually get the right gender marker on it.
Yeah.
So thanks, Dad, for being born in the UK because otherwise I would be fucked for who knows how long. Because I know it's going to take a while to like reverse back, even if there's a Democratic president that gets put back in office. There's a lot of shit to undo now. So you don't know how long it's going to take to return to normal, and I don't see it returning to normal anytime soon. Especially with JD Vance and the Heritage Foundation and all that.
Yeah.
Kind of scary.
Yeah. But maybe we should move on to the next topic because we're already getting depressed right off the
Yeah.
bat.
I mean, we're already kind of talking about this, so it's a good little transition. Do you want to dive
Well,
into the?
yes. Yeah, so Trump is taking over DC with the National Guard. He did an executive order on August 12th to seize DC's police, deployed the National Guard, and his whole reasoning is that there's just so much violence and crime on the streets of DC that we basically had to have military intervention, right? What do you say? I mean, I am enjoying the videos of the National Guard outside picking up trash because they have nothing else to do
Yeah.
and because they fired all the parts employees. So yeah, he's threatening blue states to do the same thing to them. It's been pointed out especially by our Governor Newsom, that red states have much higher crime and murder rates than the blue states, even California. So yeah, it's definitely just a threatening tactic. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah. I think he's basically trying to see how much control he can have. He started with DC because usually you need the permission of like the governor or etc. to deploy the National Guard and stuff. But since there is no governor in DC, he could do that. But I know he's looking at Chicago next. I just saw the Homeland Security lady. What's her name?
Christy Noam.
Yeah, she said they're officially like moving, looking to do Chicago. Uh, and it's interesting because we're not blind to the fact that there is crime problems in cities like San Francisco. The last time I was there, like holy shit, did I feel safe walking down the street? Hell no. Like I was basically stepping in shit and piss. Like oh my god, we were walking to a venue for a concert and we are like, what happened? We are not doing this again. Next time we are not walking, we are Ubering. And it's gotten worse over the years, no doubt. But I think, I don't know how this is a solution. It feels pretty similar to like example or an analogy. So when it comes to fat loss, right? There's all these, quote unquote quick fixes or like crash diets. And unfortunately, they're not sustainable. Like as soon as you start going back to normal, then you start gaining weight again. Same with this is just like, okay, so they're sending in troops, they're cleaning up the streets, they're pulling people off the streets. Another thing is like, where the fuck are they putting people? Like, people are homeless. Like, where are they going? That's a
Yeah,
little terrifying. But also, what's going to happen when they leave? Is they just going to go right back to normal? Because they didn't actually have a long term sustainable solution. So it's like, just like a diet, it's not sustainable. Going to go back to your old habits. So this is kind of like the unsustainable diet approach instead of actually looking at the root causes like cost of living, addiction, of course, mental health issues, the addiction issue, but majorly, cost of living and rent and all it's just expensive. It's expensive to live. So how are we going to address the root issues so it's a sustainable long-term solution and not just like, oh, we're going to basically exercise our military control and take people out. I don't know the fuck they're going and cause some panic and chaos for what? You know?
yeah. It's definitely just a flex. Yeah, there's no results off of it. Like, yeah, you might clean up the streets for a couple weeks, maybe, but if people don't have places to go, people don't have places to go, and we are seeing a rise in homelessness and drug use, and a huge part of that is the fact that it's really hard to afford places to live now. I mean, everything is expensive. Things are going up even higher, until, like you said, until those things are addressed. Really, how is someone who can't hold a job going to be able to afford a studio apartment that's $1,200 a month?
Yeah, or more.
Or more. Yeah, exactly. So it, it's unreasonable. Um, yeah, I don't know. What worries me is the fact that, like you said, these people are getting swept up off the streets, and we don't know what's happening to them. So we don't know if they're just being dropped off in another state,
Yeah,
or city, which we saw the Republicans do that with immigrants from Florida and Texas, just dropping them off in other blue states to make it, things worse there or whatever. So we don't know. And we don't know if, these people are, which is also a scary thought. Um, yeah, it's
crazy.
scary. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like I think he's slowly pushing to see how much control he could take. I feel like California will be his grand finale, obviously, because he knows Newsom is there and he's going to get some immediate pushback because he's already getting so much pushback from Newsom. But I definitely don't think it's going to stop him. So he's going for other cities and states first and seeing what he could do there. And then I think he's going to circle back around and try like San Francisco, LA. that sort of thing. But I know he's probably going to go to New York after Chicago. That's what I would think. So yeah, it's just kind of like, well, let's wait and see what happens. But it is just kind of scary that there just doesn't seem to be any rules to removing people from the streets. And where are they going? Are they just putting them in jail if they refuse to go? Because I know they're like, if they refuse to go to a shelter, then they're going to go to jail. But there's not enough room in shelters. Why do you think half the people are out on the streets?
There's not enough room in jails either. Our jails are already overcrowded. So, yeah. I mean, this has nothing to do with DC, but I think, one good thing that's happened recently is the judgment that Alligator Alcatraz needed to be disbanded. So, there's that.
Will they listen though?
Well,
Like,
they
has
listen,
it?
but also it'll just pop up somewhere else. I mean, that's all they have to do is, they'll remove it from a swamp and then they'll find another place to put it. But I don't know where these people are going. It says that the deployment resulted in over 700 arrests. So that's a
Yeah,
lot
it's
of
like,
people.
where are those people? It's a
Yeah.
fuck ton of people. So yeah,
Yeah. I mean, the city we live in, yeah, like homelessness has gotten horrible, like, especially downtown. Like you can't go down a street without seeing a homeless camp, basically. It's pretty bad. The answer isn't just arresting people. If they're doing something illegal, yes, if they're potentially causing harm or, whatever, that's one thing. But a lot of these people just need a hand, they just need a safe place to go. They need, you know, we have a lot of people who are suffering from mental health issues. We have a lot of homeless veterans that are suffering from PTSD. Yeah. I wish I had the answer. I don't, but I do know that this isn't it. This definitely isn't it. And I feel like it's just going to make things worse if not for the situation for us as a country. And we are already falling so down in people's thoughts. I mean, European Union has already stated that like we're like losing status or like we're unsafe as a civil country, something like that. So there's just definitely like, we can't just turn a blind eye, to this stuff, even if it's something that is a inconvenience for us, we still have to have like humanity and basic care for the people around us and not just look the other way.
yeah, yeah. I think the scary part too is that, which kind of leads into our next segment. But the Trump disappearance and people think, maybe he's dead or whatever. It's like it actually doesn't matter, or potentially could be more dangerous. I don't know, because the people behind this, it's not just Trump, because he's not he gets little whispers in his ear, and then he gets stuck on it, and he does it. So it's not like it's all his ideas, although I wouldn't put it past if it was. But also, the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025, this is all in their playbook, right? So that even if Trump is not president, this isn't going to stop. They just won't have their main almighty leader, but they'll transfer the same, objectives to whoever is in charge next. And
And honestly, that's what they want because while Trump is their puppet, Trump is a puppet with an ego.
yes,
So he can only be swayed so far. You look at JD Vance, JD Vance is going to do anything. He'll do whatever they say.
yeah,
So,
because I think JD Vance, if you look at his past, he has an identity problem himself. He used to be a never Trumper who said he might have to hold his nose and vote for Hillary if Trump was on the ballot. And now he's his fucking vice president. And so it just shows his lack of actual values. He doesn't stand with them. He just is kind of a chameleon and does whatever it takes to get more power, because it almost seems like maybe he was a kid that it was a little odd, or didn't quite fit in with his peers. That's what I gather from his past. And sometimes that can create some issues where you want so badly to fit in, you do anything to get power or to fit in. And I feel like that's what he does. So I feel like that's even more dangerous, because he doesn't have values he stands by, which is awful.
Yeah.
So, on that disappearance note, so I guess the last time Trump was seen was the 26th in his cabinet meeting. And then he had no public events the 29th through the 31st. Like there was nothing on the schedule and no one had seen him. He didn't talk to the press, which, Trump will take any opportunity to talk and be the center of attention. So it's really unusual for him specifically. I know people are like, Biden disappeared for weeks at a time and you guys didn't give a fuck. I was like, first of all, I wasn't really paying attention to the news as much when Biden was president because there wasn't an executive order being signed every 2 seconds or, a threat of trans rights being taken away every other day. Uh, Now we're kind of forced to pay more attention. And but the thing is, it's not as common for Trump because he likes being that center of attention. So you're like, okay, red flags, what are happening? But the thing that got even more weird was when they released photos being like, he's alive as evidence of life. And they were old photos and old
Yeah.
videos. I know they released a new one today and pretty much is like, okay, yeah, he's alive. But there's still questionable things because they're photos from far away showing that the press is not even anywhere near him or being allowed
Hmm.
near him. And it's not really showing his face. It's like side shots, and anything that's close up is old. So
Hmm.
it's kind of like, what is happening? Did he have a stroke? Is it a health issue? Is it because we are like invading Venezuela right now? Like that's something that kind of flew under the radar and we just don't know. It's a mystery. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think from what I've read and seen, like I wouldn't be surprised if like maybe like you said had a stroke. I know that there's been rumors based on his like ankles and markings on his body that he was having congestive heart failure, so maybe he had heart surgery. I mean, it could be anything, but it definitely is suspicious that we have a man who can't go a day without being on camera and now is taken multiple days away. It's definitely suspicious. So I don't know. I like I said, if he's gone, it's necessarily a hooray moment because JD Vance just jumps right in and is possibly going to be worse. So, um,
Yeah. It's like, I think the only saving grace I saw someone say is a reason how JD Vance might not be worse is because people aren't afraid of him like they are
mhm,
Trump. I was like, that's fair. But they've got so many people stacked in their administration now that are on the same page. It's like, well, who has to be afraid of him? Anyone who, on the left or even, Republicans who are not for Trump, they're still going to support the, like Republican agenda. I think I said that wrong. The left, people on the left are not going to support that, but they're already not afraid of him. They're already doing what they can. But the Republicans or the people that are surrounding Trump currently, they handpick those people. So there's not going to be as much friction as I think people might like to think. They're just kind of using Trump right now. So
yeah, it's not great. I don't know if you want to go into the next thing. We've got, or is that's
I
it?
think that's it.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to talk about with Trump's disappearance or?
Just, I mean, I do kind of find it funny how we've switched flip flopped, like before it was Biden and people are like, where's Biden? He's dead, the Republican side of things. And now it's the left being like, where's Trump? He's dead. And it's kind of unfortunate. I don't love that. I don't love that that's the first assumption. There's so many more like things that could have happened. He could have even had a procedure and he could have just not been feeling well. He could be on a new medication that makes things hard for him to talk. In his last, it wasn't the cabinet meeting, but it was like when he announced about like going into more cities with the National Guard, and he shared his little Putin picture and was like, "So I'm gonna sign it for him. So good that they sent it," kind of thing. He was having a hard time like keeping his eyes open at some
Mhm.
points, and I was like, "That's not Trump." That's something he used to say for Biden and called him Sleepy Joe.
Yeah.
So it's like there's something not right there for sure. But in I'm not a doctor, but I just don't see something that like makes it seem like he's on his deathbed. Could he have a heart attack at any point? Yeah. I mean, any of us could, but
Yeah.
definitely him. But there's plenty of people that live with congestive heart failure for quite some time. You know, he could be getting IV diuretics, and that's why his hands are bruised up. And when people get older, they bruise easier just because his hands have bruises on them. Yeah, he could have been getting even just fluids. It could have been any IV medication. I'm sure they have different things that they do for presidents that's quicker besides just taking pills, but they're going to bruise. Old folks bruise easily. So it doesn't mean just because his hands bruised up doesn't mean he's dying. Uh, his cankles, you know, that could be a sign for kidney disease along with heart failure, but it's not something that is immediate. So I just don't know. I feel we're like jumping to death right away.
Yeah, it's definitely people's hopes getting away with them for sure.
Yeah, and it like, you know, like you said earlier, you don't really hope death on anyone. And I don't hope death. I don't think anyone, well, some people probably will. It's not necessarily that you're hoping for death, you're just wanting it to stop. And I think if at the end of the day, people would rather impeach him than have him die because that's actually not even punishment enough.
Yeah,
You know, like,
I would rather him face justice than
yeah,
just it
100%.
end.
Yeah,
I
like
will say
seeing
it's
Trump in
funny. I
jail.
will say, yeah, exactly. I will say it is funny though, seeing he's sending out emails to donors basically saying that he wants to get to heaven.
I saw that too. It's
So
like, what?
that's pretty funny.
Yeah. And I guess that reminds me of some other reasons why they probably thought, you know, death is the first thing that came to mind because JD Vance said some questionable things about
Hmm.
being ready to take over. But then he was like, but Trump's in great health. And you're like,
Yeah,
then it was like, well, where is he? Because that sounds suspicious.
yeah.
But yeah, of course, the health rumors are going to continue, but they always were continuing ongoing with Biden as well. And we unfortunately don't have a whole lot of room to talk. Not that the public was really aware of how, you know, how bad Biden's situation was, because a lot of people were surprised by that when the debate happened. We're like, whoa, like, what the
Yeah,
fuck?
yeah.
Uh, so, you know, it's kind of hypocritical if we're like, we demand to know, you know, uh, his health. You know, he's not fit to serve because Biden, he was not. I'm just going to fucking say it.
No, but I think also looking back on it too, like, well, I think most of us, when we saw Biden's performance, we weren't happy. Most of us weren't happy with it. You know,
No.
obviously it was like, if that's our choice, we're going to go with Biden over Trump. But that's kind of what put Kamala in that position, was because, like, all of a sudden they realized that, you know, Biden's not doing good. He's losing faith in, you know, the public's losing faith in him. But you know, we talked about this a couple episodes ago. I think, like, it's it's obvious that the doctors for Biden, which are the presidential doctors, lied about his condition for whatever reason they had. You know, they said he had the full bill of health. He was totally fine. He's in, like, what, stage 4 or something like that. He's in an advanced stage. That's
Cancer
not something
now.
that, yeah, that's not something that blows up in months. That's something that if they were looking for it, they would have found it, you know, back then. So I think that no matter what, like, there should be transparency when it comes to the health of our presidents or our leaders. And maybe it doesn't have to be, you know, we're going to tell you right now that Trump's dying, you know, and so at that, you know, there's you know, a weakness within the administration, you know, maybe they, I don't know, but there definitely can't be we're just going to say that he's healthy and then nothing's going to happen, you know, because yeah,
Yeah, and like to be fair, I don't think we need to know absolutely everything about someone's health. Some things can remain their own business, but when it affects their work, that's when it's like there's kind of a right to know, or even if there isn't a right to know, they need to do the appropriate thing. If he needs to step aside to let someone more capable do it, then they need to do that. Um, so it's just kind of like the Biden thing was not acceptable. I think Democrats can agree on that. Like, we had no idea how bad it was till the debate, and we wish that he would have resigned way sooner and just let Harris take over,
Mm-hmm.
or so that we could actually have a vote on who we wanted to be the next president. Instead, we didn't get to vote on it, and it just did not go as hoped,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, on that note, should we talk about what we're watching?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. What am I watching? Oh, we've been rewatching the Alien movies and started the new Alien Earth series, which is amazing. If you like the Alien movies, it's it's great. I know it's getting some negative feedback just because the kind of the main cast of characters in the show. I don't want to spoil too much, but basically it's adult bodies with childlike consciousness. So it's not adults necessarily dealing with these situations. So it definitely puts a different spin on people who are trying to react with, being attacked by an alien, as well as, human manipulation involved in that. So it's really good, shot beautifully. I think we're 4 episodes in so far that have been released, but that's really good. I would really highly recommend it if you are into like horror and sci-fi. We are now, I think, in the 5th season of King of the Hill. So that's good. We just watched the Thanksgiving episode where Bobby Hill finds out that the white man is responsible for taking the natives' land and all that, as my wife and I are both indigenous. So it was funny watching that episode, but they kind of addressed it in a really cool way. So it wasn't like completely left, completely right. It was like, hey, there's a middle ground here. So that was good. I'm trying to think of what else we're watching, because I think that's mainly been it. Obviously, we were on vacation for a couple days, like 4 or 5 days, so that kind of took up a lot of time. TikTok, it's been a lot of this news stuff. I did see probably one of the most horrific videos I've probably seen to date just before we recorded this. But I guess just recently Israel bombed Gaza again and bombed a bunch of apartment buildings. And their excuse was they're going after a leader of Hamas. But this video was the aftermath right after the bombings, and it's children covered in blood being pulled out of these apartment buildings and, screaming and crying. And yeah, it's something that's really hard to see, but I'm glad I saw it just because I feel like it's super easy. Especially here, it's super easy to not realize how bad it is other places. We all have our own problems, and we have our own things that we're fighting against. But you're looking at genocide happening, and it's scary when you know that our country is involved in that and kind of supporting that effort. So not to, bring things down again, but it's just definitely something where, we need to have our eyes and ears open. Yeah, because that was really hard. That was really hard to see. But yeah, that's what I've been watching.
Yeah. Super depressing when you feel like that's why it makes it hard to be like, people are like, be proud of your country. I'm proud to be American. I'm like, how can you be right now? Like, we're supporting bullshit. So until we stop with the bullshit, no, I'm not going to be fucking proud. Like, I'm actually
Yeah,
ashamed. I'd
yeah,
rather move to another country and pretend I'm not American.
yeah,
So I know patriots are like, shame, then you should leave. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to chill,
yeah.
geez.
Give me the way out, and I will go.
Right, exactly. So yeah, so what I've been watching, we've been watching Chef's Table still, which is a great little escape. And I used to be a chef, so I like to. I mean, obviously, I still cook, so it's fun to watch for some inspiration. And it's a nice little, more, not depressing thing. And then we just started watching. Um, it's called Afterlife with Ricky. It's a British dude. He's a comedian.
Is that Ricky Gervais?
Yes. Yeah. So it's on Netflix. It's called Afterlife. Dark comedy, which is my fucking favorite. So it's got just amount enough of seriousness in it, but it's also hilarious. There's a lot of good, funny scenes in it, but and also a good like serious and kind of heartwarming things mixed in with it. So highly recommend if anyone is looking for a good, dark comedy. There's definitely some downer sides to it, but it's heartwarming. Yeah, and I think that's about it. We also watched, I like accidentally started watching this 360 murder. It's basically more of like a modern forensic files. And of course, that's also depressing, but true crime, it's hard to look away. So,
Did you end up watching the Biggest Loser documentary?
yes, yes, we did
What'd
watch
you think
that.
about that?
It was good. Definitely, you know, it's hard watching back and just seeing how they exploited people and knowing you were oblivious to it. Uh,
Yeah.
That's the part I hate the most, especially watching it back as, a nutrition and fitness coach now and just being like, these people were not even qualified to train these
Yeah.
people. Some of the shit they were fucking doing, I'm like, what the fuck were you doing? And also, I didn't even realize how small Bob was. Like, he didn't even look like he lifted. And I was just
Hmm.
like, were the standards that different for trainers back in the day? I feel like Instagram has made the expectations and standards of how a trainer's body looks like way exponentially harder to achieve. But then also we've kind of tried to get into the body positivity post
Hmm.
Biggest Loser and, the health at every size movement came kind of, I feel like a result of that mindset of
Yeah.
feeling like you're worth less if you're overweight. And so it's interesting how the pendulum swung over body positivity, your worth is not your weight, which duh, yeah, like something I've always believed, but not everyone, believes that. And but then looking at the difference in like trainers today versus trainers back then, I feel like, there's higher standards now, but it's harder to, it's much more saturated, especially with the online space and online training. I was just like, if Bob was going to start an online training business this day and age right now, he would fail tremendously. He's got zero qualifications. He admitted to never even having trained an overweight person before. And just like, what? What? How? How would what? Like,
Yeah. Isn't the reason why he got the job because he like did a yoga class with Julia Roberts or something like that?
yeah. So, this motherfucker is teaching yoga classes and they're like, yeah, we're gonna put you on a weight loss show. Make it make sense. And I feel like at least Jillian had some real life experience in that she used to be an overweight kid, and that's part of her story. So not only has she trained overweight folks before, but she was overweight, and she's not any better of a person. I'm not supporting Jillian Michaels, but it's
Hmm.
just like at least she was a bit more qualified, which you can tell because she won a lot more than Bob did.
Yeah. But I think also Jillian Michaels, like, I think you could tell, like, looking back at it, at least I could tell looking back at it, is there's definitely some inner hatred that she has towards fat people,
Possibly.
and I think that kind of reflected the way she would talk and treat them while training. Like, it seemed like she was just a little bit harsher than needed to be.
Yeah, she definitely had harsh moments, but I think what I noticed, I know in the film, specifically the documentary, they talked about Bob's moment where he just went off. And I did want to differentiate because, Jillian decided not to participate in the documentary because she said she knew it was just going to be a hit piece and she didn't want to be involved. Unfortunately, that did not allow her to give her side of things. So kind of felt like, you know, kind of free for all. They could say whatever they want about her. Uh, Especially with Bob being like, "Oh, she never texted me when I had a heart attack," and she did post receipts later, kind of defending herself. But unfortunately, not everyone's following her on Instagram. But I feel as though we do have to be careful. There is misogyny running rampant in this country, and were they trying to paint her in a worse light? Because when they showed his clip, which I didn't know at the time, but now looking at it, him going off on Joelle was not productive. 0% productive. She did not learn anything from it. She did not gain confidence from it. It was just him fucking yelling for no reason. And when you look back at when Jillian is yelling at people, a lot of the times, it might start harsh, but at least she winds it down into an empowering moment. She knows how to transition it into that person finding a purpose for it, feeling empowered by it, and then moving forward. And they'll even have like a little talk after. And, they're good, cool, moving forward. The Bob thing, it was like he was trying to create, it was almost like the producers was like, Bob, we need you to like be better, like create more
Yeah.
drama, Bob, be more like Jillian. And so it's like he tried or just decided to lose his temper. And it was just, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, this
Yeah.
didn't help anybody. So it's just like, Bob was just not qualified in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And that's really unfortunate that that's who they chose to do the show. So,
for sure.
yeah. But yeah, it was exploitative. And unfortunately, I gotta say, if they were to ask me, like, hey, we want to relaunch the show, which one, probably a problem in and of itself because it always ends up being exploitative. But, if it's going to launch, no way around it. And they're like, what are some ways that we can improve it? One, not base it off of weight loss alone, because they could be losing muscle. They could be starving themselves. They could be dehydrated, trying to manipulate those numbers on the scale. They should do something like a DEXA scan. So body fat percentage loss versus weight loss. I think they need to also split people up in different categories depending on their size, because obviously the more you weigh, the easier it is to, the more weight you're going to be able to lose. And a little bit of, it's almost like a disadvantage if you're smaller. But, and then bring in therapists that they could talk to, work on that, mindset, the root cause of things. A lot of those people, I'm sure, have trauma that they're dealing with. So I think that is a huge piece of it. They miss the mental health side of it, and also giving them real life experience outside of the ranch. I know they started doing that later on, but it was such a short time. It was like a week or something.
Yeah. They need a year.
Yeah, they need, and I think this is a 6-month timeline, and then it's like this crazy crash diet for 6 months where you're exercising 8 hours a day and eating like 800 calories or whatever. So it's like if they could make it a longer amount of time, but then, half the time they're just at home and they have a camera crew following them around at home doing their, daily stuff. Obviously, they don't do that because it doesn't make as good a TV. But unfortunately, they're also making a bad example of the fitness industry or just teaching people shitty things that we're still trying to undo. So, yeah, those are the things I would change if I could. Not that anyone asked.
No, 100%. Like I definitely, like when I watched it, I was, thinking about it, and yeah, the fact that they weren't given, anything basically once they're off the show. Like if your motivation is to help make people healthier, right? You definitely want to set them up for success after the show, and not just when it affects your ratings. I mean, you could even do like what not that 90 Day Fiance is any better. I'm sure they're also, I mean, any reality show is, just
It's
filled
not
with, it's all manipulation. But, you have like spin-off series, for whatever. So you have like the 90 Day Fiance, and then you have it, the 90 Day Fiance Happily Ever After, so like you could do, in theory, like you could have like The Biggest Loser, and then like The Biggest Loser, like after the camp or whatever, and follow these people around for a year and how they keep up that healthy lifestyle and them startling in the world. Like that would even be a better show. Like, they've gone through almost like this rehab type of situation, and then getting back in the real world and having to deal with these everyday problems and how they solve them and the resources that they use to get through it. Like that would be a better show to me.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But fortunately, people are assholes and they only want the juicy stuff. But make reality TV real again.
Yeah, there we
If it
go.
ever was. I want real shit. I don't want scripted, produced shit. I do think there is kind of a trend happening where it's even with YouTube. A lot of people who watch YouTube are not watching the overly produced YouTube channels anymore. They're kind of craving that old style of like vlogging. They want that more personal touch to it. So if it's over edited or just too produced, people are not wanting to watch it as much. So it's almost, I feel like people are reaching it in the YouTube sense of That's what they're preferring right now because everything just seems fake. So like people are craving, real people, real connection. Unfortunately, it still doesn't exist. It's through a screen, but I get it. Anywho, now that we went off on tangent for that one, but
All right.
did
Yeah, I
you?
think I think
Yeah, sorry.
no, what are you saying?
I was just like, did you have any last things you wanted to go over?
No, I think we covered a lot of stuff. I'd say, although we are inundated with negative news, it seems almost every hour, still try and stay positive, and look for the bright sides while also just making sure you stay informed.
Yep, exactly. Until next time, stay informed. Let us know what you think. Let us know your opinions. Do you think Trump is alive? What do you think's going on? I want to know what people's speculations are. So let us know in the comments, and we'll take a vote. No, just kidding. Right answer wins $500. Just kidding. I don't have $500. Right answer
Not in
gets
this
a
economy.
shout. Yeah, right answer gets a shout out. All right. So on that note, thanks everyone for listening or watching, and we will talk to you next time.